Hello, and welcome to Come Play With Us, a spooky storytelling podcast. My name is Leela, and I'm joined by my evil twin,
Ruby. We're actually both the evil twin. We're both writers with non-writer day jobs. We believe in the power of great storytelling, so we've invited guests with the challenge of weaving a tale about real-life hauntings and paranormal activities with the sole purpose of scaring the shit out of us.
We'll rate them to see how they've done. Our ratings go a little something like this: scared shitless, some chills, and I think I'll be able to sleep tonight. Today's guest is our friend Samaya.
Best friend
Samaya.
Leela. Oh my God, she just demoted you.
We met in high school.
We met in the girls' bathroom in high school.
I made the first move. It was me.
It was a stunning girl. We have to talk to her. You were like fixing yourself in the mirror. We're just like standing there like, okay, we have to talk to her.
And we, many years, unknown years later, we've roped you into doing an episode on our podcast. So do you want to tell us what your subject is about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will second that. I definitely didn't make the first move because I never do. So thank you, Leila. All those years ago. So today we have the story of the Bell Witch, America's greatest ghost story.
Okay. We haven't had a witch yet. So
we haven't had a witch yet.
So I was gonna say, like how Leela mentioned that we roped you into this. I want to know. I know we've talked a little bit about this, but like, how much of a horror fan are you? Like, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I would say that I really enjoy. I don't know, maybe horror thrillers. Like, I don't really enjoy the goriness of a lot of movies, but I gosh, what was the last one that I really liked? Hereditary. I'm sure you guys have seen Hereditary. That I enjoyed it. Yeah, movies like that. That's kind of where I'm at. That's what I like. And I enjoy watching them with at least one other person. Otherwise, yeah, I will be spooked out of my mind. Like, I need one person near me at least. Yeah, I think I'm a fan. I wouldn't say I'm an avid fan, but yeah.
Remember when Paul and I were over, we watched Host together.
I love Host.
The Zoom seance scary movie.
I watched that with my niece. She was over. I had already seen it with Todd, and Todd and I, because we watch like every horror except I think he likes more like the Saw type, and I like more supernatural. And we'll meet in the middle with like demons and other things, but we run out of options so quickly that I'll like Google like what are as if there's any gems that I've missed, and Host was one, and I was like, oh yeah, because that came out in 2020, and it was right when the pandemic happened, and it was a movie that was like at the top of the box office, but it made like 10,000 or 11,000 because
there's no box office.
There's no box office because no movies were coming out. The only reason why it made that much is because the guy rented out the theater, and he had like all his friends and family come and watch, and like the crew and the cast, and that's how he made so much money. But it is so good, and I know that you guys watched it.
What did you think of it?
It is really good. I think there were a few things that I really enjoyed. One, like you said, it was timely, right? It felt like a movie of this time, that kind of like thing that we were all going through with Zoom calls and not really knowing what's happening, with someone else in their home. But also the whole length of the movie. I think it was pretty short, right? It was like just over an hour or something.
Yeah, it was like
that kind of added to it for me, because you're expecting for something to be drawn out, and then suddenly it ends and you're like, oh my God, that's it. Like, even that in itself
also Zoom, scary. I think you can only talk for an hour or something with Zoom. Like, I think you get timed out with Zoom.
You don't have like the corporate company account. Like with the company accounts, it's unlimited. But yeah.
We have this, do you see this thing right here? It's on our microphone. It's this little rod.
It just slid down on its own.
It just slid by itself.
And that's never happened before.
Do you see it? Can you see it right there? See that?
Yeah. Stop. You're making noises.
So when we asked our niece last night, she was saying what she loves about horror is that it almost makes her feel safe because it's not happening to her, it's happening to someone else. And then it's like that someone else is almost like a surrogate where thank you. Okay, she just gave me a banana in the middle of me talking.
Just very slowly eating a banana.
But then I accepted the banana when I shouldn't have because I'm still talking and I'm like speaking.
It's a part of life. You got to eat.
So, so she was saying that the person in the movie is like her surrogate, so they get to experience all the horror without her having to experience it. So she can observe from a safe distance. It's so interesting.
That is very interesting. That is very interesting because I feel like I take it differently. Like when I'm watching it, I'm not intentionally, but always thinking like, oh my God, what if that were me? So it's almost a different, it almost hits me in a different way because I'm like,
I would not have gone down that hallway.
Yeah, Barbarian.
Exactly.
Right, yeah, looking at you, Barbarian. So much of that, but that was the point. That was the point of Barbarian was that first part, she was ignoring all the red flags, and then from then on, she just did stupid things.
Right.
Mad.
But well, I mean,
still a good movie though.
Berber.
I've seen it 3 times.
Oh, really?
I've seen it 3 times. I'm not over it.
I just like that there were many storylines, so it's not like you could get caught up in one, and even if you got caught up in one, then they would distract you with the other, and I think it played on that really well. Yeah.
All right, let's hear all about the Bell Witch.
Okay, let's do it.
We have blankets, so we snuggle up on the couch when people are telling us their scary stories.
You can only see me waist up anyway.
Yeah,
that's true. That's very true. So I'd like to start by saying that this story has numerous theories, right? It's a story that really is thought of as one of the first ghost stories in America. So it's been told many times, and each retelling is a little bit differently, and each historical fact, quote unquote, is a little skewed. So it's a little bit of the fun, right? To unravel the behavior of the spirit and kind of pick apart and shed light on the reasons for this entity and why it did things. So our story unfolds in the early 1800s, Tennessee, when Tennessee was a young state, right, experiencing rapid growth as the threat of war with the Native Americans diminished. That's kind of the stage set. The secession of land from the Cherokee and Chickasaw tribes led to the state selling it at low prices, attracting a flood of settlers from the east. So this land grab resulted in Tennessee's population tripling by 1817. Yet the tale, an ominous undertone born from greed that tainted the acquisition of what wasn't freely given, right? So that's the stage we're playing with. In this tumult,
one thing I want to touch upon is like in 1800, like Tennessee, like that was the Wild West, right? It was still like this unincorporated territory, like unknown territory. Absolutely. And that for us, it's like that's still kind of like the East Coast, but for them, that was the Wild West.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you kind of think about it as like this land was just the Native Americans. I mean, it's lush, it's green, it's uninhabited. I mean, it was just stolen, right? And then just kind of like given to people for pennies. So in this tumultuous year of 1817, the state experienced a whirlwind of changes, which exemplifies the instability that plagued the region. It was a time when the capital was Nashville, shifted for the 5th time back to Knoxville, highlighting this like shifting landscape of political power. In this era, before the Civil War, before the dawn of industrialization, the dark specters of slavery, greed, and massacre cast a long shadow over the land, defining the prevailing themes.
So Tennessee is just very haunted.
I still feel like Tennessee, there's just some stuff, racial going on.
Definitely
still lingering. Absolutely. Yeah. So the year is 1817. This is also the year that the Bell family moved to Adams, Tennessee, which is just 40 minutes outside of Nashville. So very close to all this chaos that's happening. Adams was a small, humble town surrounded by miles and miles of untouched wilderness. It's said that a number of Indian burial mounds could be found in this region as well.
Oh my goodness.
The family built a solitary farmstead on the outskirts, surrounded by a massive 320 acres of lush fields, dark woods, and even caves. It bordered the Red River, which kept the land fertile, and some retellings say that their acreage was closer to 1,000. An eerily beautiful expanse that held more than one secret. So the Bell family moved from North Carolina to make this wild landscape their home. Their patriarch, John Bell Sr., was a prosperous farmer with a commanding presence. He uprooted his wife Lucy, their 7 children, their slaves, and farm animals to Tennessee to expand their success. Their homestead was modest, but a sturdy log house, a shield against the elements. It was 1.5 stories high with 6 bedrooms and a long passage hallway between them all. From the hearth rose a stone chimney for the family to surround, and 7 feet tall orchard trees circled the home, and yet it was still no match for the malevolent force that lurked within.
Ooh.
And within the house or within the orchard?
Within the house and within the orchard.
Okay, so it's everywhere.
I love how proud you were now of yourself when we were like, ooh, like you did a little shimmy. You did a little shimmy. You did a little
like,
sway.
Did they build a house? They built the house, right? Everyone
they did. They built the log house. They took the gosh, I forgot what kind of trees it was on the land, but they had everything they needed there. They were self-sufficient. So they built this log house for 7 kids and the couple, so at least 9 of them, and then of course they had stables for their animals and then areas for the slaves. So the Bells had early success in Adams. John became an elder of their Baptist church. Lucy was revered as a good mother and stable force that kept the kids in line, and the children were all well known and liked throughout the community. The family had no idea that their promised land was home to sinister forces. They really started to flourish in this area. So one evening, John ventured into his sprawling cornfields. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. His eyes widened in terror, and before him stood a monstrous aberration, a creature defying all logic and reason. It was a dog's body melded unnaturally with a rabbit's head, a grotesque fusion that sent shivers down his spine. Fear seized his trembling hands as he frantically aimed his weapon, yet in an instant, the abomination had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the lingering chill of an approaching darkness. Little did he know, this harrowing encounter marked the first step of his. Soon, strange happenings turned into physical manifestations. Objects moved, chairs were upended, even the robust farm animals seemed restless, spooked by an unseen terror. The house, once a sanctuary, now echoed with invisible mischief. The entity, which eventually became to be known as the Bell Witch, was said to possess an otherworldly intelligence and the ability to communicate with the family members. It would mimic voices, recite Bible verses, and engage in conversations with them. The fear was palpable, yet the Bells were determined to keep their ordeal a secret. This prominent family was not willing to become the subject of town gossip, but the witch sought a louder stage. One chilling night, a haunting transformation occurred within the confines of the Bell household. From the depths of the house, a spine-chilling voice emerged, permeating the air with eerie hymns that reverberated through the halls. The songs possessed a haunting familiarity, yet carried an otherworldly essence. It was as if the entity, compelled by an insidious curiosity, fixated its attention on the youngest member of the family, Betsy Bell. The Bell Witch directed its intense animosity towards her, singling her out as a primary target for its sadistic actions. Her family shuddered as they beheld the invisible force that relentlessly assaulted Betsy through clawed scratches, cuts, and deep pin marks, leaving behind a trail of bruises and wounds. The entity manifested its dark power as if deriving perverse pleasure from her suffering. Within the humble homestead, Betsy's anguished screams pierced the stillness of the countryside, blending with the haunting symphony of the wilderness. So night after night, this cruel torment of entity descended upon young Betsy, a hapless victim of its malevolence. Betsy's physical and mental well-being suffered under the relentless pursuit of the Bell Witch. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by restless nights plagued by anxiety and fear. The entity reveled in exploiting her vulnerabilities, relishing in each terrorizing act that pushed her closer to the abyss of despair. Betsy became a symbol of the witch's dark power, a testament to the devastating impact it had on her young, innocent soul.
How old was she?
She's a teen at this point. And I'm glad you asked because, you think young, innocent soul. And in the beginning, I was imagining someone much younger. But during this time, she's actually engaged, right? She's like 13, 14, 15. I mean, history, it's different in those times, right? And a lot of reports say that one of the reasons her engagement fell through was because this spirit did not want her to marry this guy, Joshua. So it was a proof of her match, and ultimately the spirit got what it wanted. They never got married.
So I love how the spirit was like, I live here
itself.
now, I'm part of the family, I don't approve of him. Or was it like, I want you to alter myself?
I think the spirit just saw her as something to play with, I'm not sure that there was an agenda, but there are definitely different theories, So the quaint town of Adams was abuzz with whispers. For 4 years, the tale of the witch, a revenant seeking revenge, circulated. One prominent theory suggests that the Bell Witch was a vengeful spirit of Kate Batts, a neighbor of the Bell family. According to this belief, Batts harbored a grudge against John Bell Sr., and her spirit returned after death to torment the family. Bell and Batts had engaged in a bitter land dispute, leading some to speculate that she may have placed a curse upon him.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty rock solid right there. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, the manifestation of the evil, and I'm like, no, I think it makes sense if it's a person, the spirit of a person.
And what's interesting about these reports and these retellings is that in the research, there are different theories about Kate Batts as well. Some say that at this time she's actually still alive, and so this entity was just assuming her identity. It wanted someone that knew that had conflict with John, and it would assume this identity. And other reports say it was after she passed and after the struggle that she and John had. In her own life, her husband was ill, passed early, so did her sons. So she was left to her own devices and had to figure out her own land issues and all of this, which led to the dispute with John. So there's definitely some mystery there too about the years and how it all played out. Was she alive? Was she not alive? Others believe that the Bell Witch was an unresolved spirit or manifestation of sinister energy associated with the vast land. Yeah, that the haunting was not connecting to a specific person, but rather a deeper spiritual presence tied to the location itself, perhaps due to the bloodshed that the land had seen in its earlier history. What remained certain was that the Bell's family's normalcy was lost amid the swirling rumors. So if you can imagine, they're a prominent family in this small town. People have now look up to John Bell, right? He's an elder in their church, and yet for 4 years, people are just gossiping about them. Like, what is going on in your home?
I'm kind of enjoying that fall from grace. I don't know why. I love drama.
And that's the hero's journey,
right? To see this hoity-toity family. Also, they own slaves. And, so I'm kind of enjoying this torment.
What I'm very curious about is, I know that they had tried to keep it a secret from the town, but how did people start finding out? Was it from the broken engagement or just
that's a great question. So little things started to seep out until eventually the family just kind of gave in. And so first it was, the engagement, right? Betsy obviously was unraveling, and the other family was like, this is not the girl you promised to our son. So there were cracks there. But then, because 4 years of torment, I think at some point John Bell Sr. and his wife Lucy really went to their friends, their closest friends. So there are reports of them even inviting, another church couple to stay in their home for a weekend or a night and just see if they also feel this presence. And all of those instances say that even the guests were like, something's amiss, right? I think definitely various retellings where some guests that stayed absolutely felt the presence. You know, maybe their clothes was on a different side of the room when they woke up or things like that. Some of them couldn't get through the nights because of all the weird noises they would hear. So slowly but surely, like there were cracks in their image for sure. As the Bell Witch grew bolder, his wife attributed blame to the entity for her husband's deteriorating condition, claiming the witch poisoned him by administering a toxic substance. Even medical professionals were unable to provide a satisfactory explanation for his symptoms. And finally, on a cold winter morning, after a year of languishing, he drew his final breath. They say the Bell Witch laughed, a chilling laugh that echoed through the woods, resonating with the crowing of the distant birds. Her first victory had been claimed, forever leaving the Bell family entangled in a nightmarish dance with the unknown.
She played the long game.
She's
Yeah,
having,
She's like,
she's gonna live for an eternity though.
she
So
was like,
she's, you know.
he's, you know, it's 1820 in the frontier. He's gonna not live long anyway. Let me just speed it up.
Well, I think she's gonna live for like ever. She's gonna live for an eternity. So she's like, let me just take my time and torture him.
what's really interesting too is that you know, after he spent this long year just being tortured by this unknown thing, right? Um, the reports say that after he was buried, you know, even the day of his burial, many heard like the entity laughing and singing at his gravesite afterwards. Like she was ecstatic, you know, that she had pulled this off. And to what you guys were saying earlier, I mean, it really does seem like she attached herself to this family. She was like, they're mine now, and I'm gonna do whatever I want with them, you know?
She's toying with them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, over 2 centuries later, the legend of the Bell Witch continues to captivate and intrigue, lingering in the collective memory of those who have witnessed or heard of the haunting. The stories of her vengeance persist, passed down through generations. The chilling tales have woven themselves into the fabric of American folklore. Today, visitors are drawn to the Bell Witch Cave, seeking a glimpse of the spectral presence that transcends time and preserves the tale of terror. And the descendants of the Bell family, still residing in the Tennessee region, serve as a haunting reminder of the dark past that continues to cast its shadow in the present, and the results of a brutal overtaking of the native residents.
Wow.
And do you have any more information about the Bell Cave?
That was the completion of my story, but we can dig in if you guys like. It feels so
Yeah,
fun.
we can.
I
dig
love
in.
if we had. I love if we had a story like that.
Can I have my phone?
That was
And
passed
you know,
down through our generations.
absolutely. Like you think of it as American folklore, and honestly, there's so much research to be done. There's so many stories of this Bell Witch and how she not only terrorized this family but the land. So there are reports that at this time, I think the president was Andrew Jackson, and he's from Tennessee and lived in Nashville. So there are reports of even them crossing together and having weird circumstances. So she's really permeated through history.
That says so much.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I gravitated to with the story. Like when you first hear about the land and how it's really just a moment after it was stolen from the people who have been there forever. And this new family just thinks, you know, they can come in and take it over and build their prosperity as if the land didn't have a history before them.
And on the backs of like their,
Oh, so
once
here's
again, they
something
own
I'm
slaves.
reading. It says the cave is located on property once owned by the Bell family. Many believe that when the witch departed the family, she fled to the sanctuary of this cave. So that's where she resides, which is probably why she doesn't harm the current descendants because she's in this cave. In the particular legend in which the cave is featured, young Betsy Bell and some of her friends had gone to explore the cave. While they were there, one of the boys crawled into a hole and became stuck. A voice cried out, "I'll get him out." The boy felt hands grasping his feet and he was pulled out of the hole. The supposed entity, still invisible, then gave the young explorers a lecture on reckless cave exploring. Okay, hold on. That went from
Okay.
terrifying to just like
Yeah,
magic.
after school special. Anyone could be hiding out, you know, and or entities can be hiding out. Yeah, but
You
it's
know,
so
it's-
interesting. It's like the whole idea of land possession and how it wasn't even their land to begin with, and then how the Bell Witch is basically possessing them, or has claimed a possession on the family and the homestead and everything. It's just something very, very interesting. I don't know if the Bell Witch was an entity that was manifested from just how haunting the land was, or how haunted the land was. I think it's kind of like a I don't know, just a symbol of that, these people who just are wealthy off the backs of they're enslaved, and on top of that basically stolen land, and now they're kind of, it's almost like they could have manifested her themselves.
Yeah, like, and that's where we got the first American horror stories, like from Washington Irving and stuff like that, back when it was just the colonies, back when it was still, even the Dutch were still, here, like even in New York. And his stories, the common theme, of course, is that the evil is born from the wilderness. And so it just definitely tracks that, even like, over 100 years later, you're looking at, Tennessee, and it's just this wilderness, and it's strange and frightening and wild. And so they're going to look at it as, because I'm scared of it, only evil can come from here.
How perverse for you to come somewhere where obviously it existed before you. The people exist on the land. You're the one that's unknown, that is unfamiliar, and to assume that what's going on isn't just, the native people being one with the land, understanding their territory. It's so bold to come somewhere, be the outsider, and say, you guys are wrong, and you guys are weird, and you guys are evil. And it sets a tone, right, for that greed. It sets a tone for all that greed, like, to be able to, like, one of the things that I was, like, really saddened by, honestly, in the beginning of my research was they had just taken all this land, right? They say, like, the Cherokee and the Chickasaw tribes had seceded, right? But they basically took all their land, pushed them out, and then they had so much land that they were giving it away for pennies to people. I mean, people didn't even need this land. They just took all that they can, and then we're like, oh, well, we might as well just kind of, give it away for free.
That's the generational wealth kind of got passed down, right? It was land. Yeah, absolutely. Like they stomped in, this is mine now. And I mean, I feel like Mr. Bell,
John Bell Sr.
John Bell
was
they're all named John back then.
Bell Sr. was out there in the cornfield with a gun looking for trouble, like looking to shoot at something, right? Okay, so we rate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I was feeling that too.
Okay.
So our rating is,
and we always give a reason why.
Okay.
Which means we got some chills. So
we're right in the middle. Yes.
Okay, so first let me say,
well, we will be able to sleep tonight. We did get some chills.
Okay, so let me first, you are an excellent storyteller.
Yes.
You delivered on every point. The amount of research you did was incredible. Like your storytelling, the way that you kind of let the facts unfold were incredible. But the reason why I wasn't scared shitless is because I don't feel like I have any pity for this family.
Exactly.
So it's not you. It's not you at all. Like I'm excited for, and I would love if
you're rooting for the Bell Witch. Is that it?
Kind of. So it's like, so for you, like, I would love for you to do this again, because you just the way that you were telling the story was just like, I was getting creeped out, because I just kept imagining not an entity, but like a force, like just this
not a voice,
not a voice, but like a force, but like this, like, I was just thinking about a haunting over like a large, it kind of those mists, right? Like in Tennessee, it's just like it encompasses a large part of land or a state, and it's not just this one localized thing. It takes over like this entire like region, and that to me is scary. But I just feel like I don't have any pity for John Bell.
I agree.
Yeah,
because they're very, to me, I guess what I took away from it is they're those society people that only care about what people think about them, And in a way, they're kind of being punished. Let's not forget, they're also slave owners. They're marrying off their daughter when she's like 13, And so it's like, it's just, I think I would feel more fear. It's a little bit like how our niece was saying that, the person experiencing a terror is like a surrogate. So I'd feel more fear if I felt like I could relate, or that they seem more like hapless victims. But I'm just a little like, I don't know, man. You kind of brought it upon yourself.
Yeah.
You kind of go on this land. It's,
I think,
she's called the Bell Witch for a reason, because she went after them.
Yeah.
So specifically,
what were you
guys doing that she would go straight to? She hasn't messed with their descendants. So it's this specific family.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the Bell Witch loves that they named her for this family. I'm sure she's just like, exactly, I am their witch. I am going to torture them.
And then the cave story, I'm like, clearly she's like, it's not even just about tormenting. She's like lecturing. She's just like, you guys don't know better.
She knows better. They don't.
You guys are so annoying. And so she helps that one kid because he's not a Bell. So she's so she's very specifically focused on a family. I'm like, what did you do?
She's
they're not innocent.
I feel the same way, in that there were some really creepy details, which I love. But I couldn't help but sit there and think that they deserved the haunting. And I was rooting for her. So I was kind of like eating up the scary details, because the torment, it was just give them the torment.
There's definitely some sass there, in the way that she handled her hauntings. I mean, let's also not forget that she was harming a child, which, I feel horrible saying rooting for her. She was harming a child. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what the townspeople were being told, right? So I don't know. What if she was more really fixated on John Bell Sr.? What if it really was?
She seemed to be. I mean, he kind of died by her hand. It took a while, but he's the only one. He's the only casualty of the Bell Witch. So
these are good notes. And this is my first time, so
it wasn't you. It was the witch. And
we just like her so much.
We like her. She's so interesting, and I think also the fact that the hauntings, so a lot of what we like about these true real life horror stories or real life ghost stories is that often the hauntings continue to this day. And so what we're always really fascinated about is what's going on now, what are people seeing or experiencing, and the fact that she completely stopped. Maybe she was just an amalgamation of just all the tragedy that was going on in that place, and that he was just an example of
a symbol of it.
The symbol of,
Thank you so much, Sumaya, for joining us today. We loved your story, and we can't wait to hear your next one.
Well, I'm glad that you guys were entertained, so thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, you can reach us at podcomeplayWithUs@gmail.com.
We'd love to hear from our listeners. So if you have real life ghost stories or paranormal encounters and you think it'll scare the shit out of us, please send them in. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye.